So contact records are the basis for any module within iFirm itself. Okay, so it's where it gets your contact or client information. So this is going to populate within the returns themselves. So any client that is having a return prepared will have a contact record. Okay, so that includes spouses and dependents as well. Each particular contact within the system is assigned a client code. So this might be something that's familiar, especially with practice management that you currently do have. Do you have a specific client code that you'd like to use?
I don't know. Are we going to kind of stick with what we have? Jenny?
Well, if you are changing it, that's a revamping everything from GoMine to time and billing system. We're using, basically our current practice is usually start with the group name, and then every single addition of a point of a contact, for example, an additional new company, it will be 010203 dot 010203. That's our current practice. Do you see the necessity of changing it? Shannon?
You can. Sure, go
Jenny,
ahead, George.
So for Jenny, so if iFirm, if we're going to do billing through iFirm, it would be helpful if we have the group, right?
Yeah.
It would just be easier to do billings, right? Because I know that's probably the next potential move. But so I'm thinking that it's probably good to start incorporating the client codes now, I guess.
Yes, if you do transition to jobs and billing at a later date, it will make it easier to import any outstanding WIP or AR balances in the future because it'll match one-to-one, right?
Yeah, the good thing is on our CRM system, the client codes are identical, and when we set up across the CRM system and the time and billing system. So
Okay.
There's no conflict or there's different set of the client codes, so we can easily exporting from the CRM system, put into the CCH iFirm, and once we bring the time and billing system into the platform, and it should be there shouldn't be any conflict, put this way.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and that's usually how I handle it with most firms, and especially when you are looking in the future at multi-products and bringing them into iFirm, it makes sense just to keep things consistent. Less chance, especially WIP and AR, which is your financials eventually, you want it to be right. You really do. So if we have the right codes, it's easy to map that data in the future. And also, if you are in that period of time where you are going from system to system, client code makes it easy to, correlate between the two systems there, right?
One thing though, my understanding is Taxprep software.
Yes.
The ID section is constantly sync with the contact page. In
Yes.
our Taxprep system, we do not put client codes in the tax return.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that was going to be my next question, whether you did input that into Taxprep.
No.
But that's no problem. In practice management or your CRM, do you include the SIN number, business number, trust account numbers?
No.
Okay.
So the T1, T3 is gonna be, yeah, we don't even have a, if it's a corporate client, their personal tax return does not have a particular account on the CRM system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so this is where it's going to be a little bit different because you do need a separate record for like a T1 return versus a T2 return. Because within the actual contact itself, it's categorized in two ways. So first way is this entity, and this controls what type of returns can be prepared for that client. So with a corporation, for example, it only can prepare a T2 or forms. Whereas if it's set to an individual, you can prepare T1s or forms. And obviously with trust and estates, it's only T3. So you would need a client record, let's say for the numbered company to do the T2. And then if Joe was the owner, we're doing his T1, we'll have a separate contact record for Joe.
Right, and if he has a trust, then he has a trustee, so that's
Yes.
another contract. Yeah.
Yeah, you got it. That's exactly it. One thing with forms, though, the recipients on your forms. So when you bring in your forms returns, let's say you have, I don't know, this numbered company that you're issuing T4s for, you won't have to have a contact record for every recipient of a T4. Okay, so if Jill Smith works for this numbered company, we issue the T4. We don't need a record for that T4. When you bring in your return or you roll forward it, all that recipient information will be brought into the system. Okay.
So that's on the T4 issuance at the employer level.
Yeah.
It only captures it's only traced back to the contact page of the employer, which is our corporate client.
Yes,
Or
you got it.
client. Right, okay.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly correct. Yeah, so it's just the employer or the one issuing the slips that would be the contact. All the recipients are not contact records, but
Right.
they will be brought in. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Okay, so we need to know how to best get your information in here. And it is going to be a little more complex because you don't have sort of a source that has all the information we do need. Okay, so one of the items we do need is that SIN number, business number, trust account number transferred in. Now, the reason for that is that when we do bring in your tax prep returns, it only uses that tax reference number as the point to match a record in iFirm to the return itself. Okay, so if you do not have those numbers and you have contacts in your iFirm database, what will happen is it will not match it, even though the name and the address is exactly the same, and it will create a duplicate record. So we don't want that at all.
So you are using SIN number, trusted number, business number as its unique ID. And
Yes.
use that as the final confirmation of the true database that we are handling, or the pool of returns, tax records that we are managing.
Exactly. It's that unique, exactly what you're saying, the unique identifier within the database for tax prep. So we need both the tax reference numbers in, and also we need the client codes. So it might be a little more difficult in your case, a little more work to get that information into the system, because we're going to have to get all the information in here via CSV. Because if we do it just by importing returns, your client code, because it is not in those files for tax prep, it won't transfer over. Okay.
So just looking at the current database of
Yes.
T2, T3, and whatever, and T1s. So we'll be able to extract that in such information from the existing Taxprep platform, the database
Yes.
system.
Mhm.
And then we can run the matching to our CRM system to merge the two together
Yeah.
to
So
form
yeah,
the CSV file for the import,
yes.
which is possible.
Yes. Yeah. Certainly you could do, I've had clients who do VLOOKUPs. I myself, I'm a programmer by trade, so I use SQL a lot to do that merging when I do it for clients. So there are various ways. So it really depends on what you're most comfortable with. Okay. Let's go down to the settings and installation here. Okay, because there is a set number of headings we need to use in order to map the fields correctly. Okay, so we can import all of this information. Okay, and we do have a template right here as well. I have an even better template, to be honest with you, that I can send you as well. And it does show which fields are going to be mandatory for inputting and what the values are expected within that particular portion or column. So it makes things easy. So I'm just going to bring up that file and then we can take a look at that. This is going to be probably the most important part, is just getting things set up exactly the way you need them to be. Okay, so I have this template. You can ignore the other tabs here. You will not need to do those. And I can send you a copy of this as well after a session. So it basically shows you which fields are mandatory. So obviously client code, so you'll input that here. The entity type, and we
Okay.
do have the defaults right here.
Mhm.
Okay, the name field is going to be used for your corporate clients or your trust and estates or nonprofits, for example. Okay, and this has to be the legal name of the company.
Mhm.
For individuals, you would enter first name and last name. The mailing name is,
Okay, sorry, got it. Okay, yeah, that's a
Okay.
T1. When you say individual, that's a T1
yes,
client. Okay.
that would be your T1 client.
Mhm.
Okay, mailing name is optional in this case. What you can do here is, if my numbered company had an operating as name, so let's say Joe's Cafe, I could enter that here. Okay,
Okay.
so that you could
That's-
do a search in the database by either legal name or by operating as name.
Okay.
So partner can be set on the file, and that will flow through to your tax returns. If you currently have a manager assigned within practice management or your CRM, it might be useful to bring that information over as well so that you're prepared for jobs and billing. Okay, and then group 1 and group 2, you're not going to use this because you're not using what we call firm filtering. So I'd remove those fields for you.
So that's a division, right?
Yeah, that could be the division. So if you have set up a firm filtering after our last session, you could allocate that here. You'll just have to change the heading here to whatever it says here. So you can see here, I have group 1, mine is location. So you just sort of select that, copy that, and then paste it over here.
Shannon,
Yes.
we had a conversation, I think we touched base on that point, is we usually have 2 partners, or from time to time, we have a, large group in which 2 partners looking after that. So certainly the column H should be the primary partner, sometimes could be just relationship partner. And then there will be partner number 2, who's looking after the detailed work. So how do we differentiate? Is there capability of designating some field that we can customize it so that we can capture that information?
You could use the dynamic field, but just be aware with dynamic fields, you can only view them on the contact record themselves. If you wanted that secondary partner to flow through to a job later on, I would put it in manager.
Then where are we gonna put a manager? So
yeah, that's the issue.
Field. We're gonna push the manager to using the dynamic field.
Yes, you could do that. It depends on it's a problem with just having the 2 fields. Here, what you could also do is you could take over one of your firm filtering groups as well, because you have 2. So I could set my second one as like secondary partner.
That would work.
Yeah. And then that's going to flow through as well to the jobs later on too.
So the group 1 and group 2, they are just a filter.
Yes. Yeah. They are a filter. And they can be used for reporting in various ways in the future. So that's going to help you with jobs and billing, especially with the secondary partner, if you want to report on WIP, for example, by secondary partner.
So we're gonna use group 2 for the secondary partner. I think that makes logical sense. Yeah.
And then you can also import it with your CSV too. So that makes it really easy to update all those records.
On the minor point, we have we use initials for the manager code, and we use first name for partner.
Yes.
Does it make any difference? It doesn't, right?
It does. It does make a difference here. It has to be entered first name and last name, exactly the way it appears in iFirm.
Switch and replace, that's easy. It's not manual.
But what I've done in past with some of my clients is I just do like a find replace, and if I have like PL, I put Paul Lawson, for example, instead. So it's easy to fix that.
Yeah, that's easy.
Yeah, you don't want to do initials here or just first name or just last name, because what it'll do in the system when you import is it'll create another user.
Correct.
And you can't remove users, as you know, you can't delete them. So that kind of is a pain. Okay, you can have postal addressee. I'm just going to note with trusts, the postal addressee is populated in the cell care of. Okay. And then we do have the address, so postal address, mailing address. So in T2, the head office would be, I think, the physical address. I will send you a sheet where it shows you how things map in iFirm, the contact database, versus the ID form, so that you'll know where things map from the ID form to the contact record. As you can see, it's a very basic type spreadsheet here. Okay, and more than likely, you're only going to have clients. So this is the second level of categorization, whether it's a client, prospect, lead, or supplier. I'm thinking right now you only have clients in your database.
Yeah, we only gonna import the client, not
Yeah.
the rest. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and then we do have your SIN number, business number, and account number here.
Mhm.
Okay. So once you have this spreadsheet populated, all you have to do is just remove these informational fields. I'll remove these tabs at the bottom, but you just save it as a CSV. And just going to show you what CSV format I always recommend. Is I know there are a few. Don't use the UTF-8. Sometimes it causes issues really for no reason at all. Use the one right
On the
here
other
in the
end,
middle. Yeah,
Yeah.
just the plain CSV.
Yeah.
Then you're going to go back to iFirm here, and it's as easy as choosing the file and clicking on import. Just note it does take a few minutes, especially if there's a large number of records that it is importing, and you can do this in batches. So what some of my firms do is they go through their individual list, then their corporate list, trust list, etc. So you're not limited to just doing this once. And sometimes I find it's a little quicker if we put it in batches.
That's actually a good idea.
Yeah, do it in batch and we could test it and yeah.
Yeah. And then it gives you kind of an idea where things land in the record. I can give you all the information, but sometimes you just like to actually see it live as well. Okay. So we'll get your contact records in, and once they're in, they're going to reside underneath contacts, and you'll be able to see them right here. So let's go through the actual contact record. I just want to show you the sort of nuts and bolts of it and how you can make any changes here. Okay, so just like you were saying, Jenny, earlier, whether you update it here or in the return on the ID form, so things like address, names, phone numbers, etc., it will sync back and forth between this contact database and your return. Okay. I'm going to just open up a tax return here as well, just so that I can show you that ID form. So here's the ID form, and it is by default set to automatically synchronize the contact information to the iFirm database. If, for example, you don't want it to sync, you can come here, click on No. Then any changes I make here will not be reflected in Catri's contact record. Okay, but as you can see, it does throw a diagnostic when you do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree there. Most of the time, you're not going to do this. It's very rare circumstances you would
We
want
just
to do
need to,
this.
we just need to enforce the practice that any address change
Mhm.
needs to be reflected on the T2. Even client moves and sometimes they just don't bother to go through the ID section. The right address can be throw off without, yeah.
Right, so it's gotta be done.
Yeah. We should not use the no.
Right.
Yeah, we should keep it on. But if the address, the ID information is different from the contacted page, it will give me the diagnostics, right? If I'm saying the contacted page address is changed, or the T2 address is changed, it will give me the diagnosis.
Well, what it will do is we call the contact record here the source of truth. So what that means is that this is the source of truth, meaning that any of the information that is on the contact record is the one that is used in the return.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's the master.
That's your master list
Yeah.
for contact info.
Mhm.
So it'll always update whatever is on the contact record, regardless of whether you import a return that has a different address. It will always use the address that is on the contact record that it's linked to. Okay, so if you have a different address in the return, you import it or roll it forward, it will use the contact record, not the return for the info. Okay, so basically you just need to make sure initially when you are bringing in information that the contact record is the correct information, that it is updated.
Sometimes that's not the case.
Okay.
You have to make a decision on that separately.
So whether you update it in the ID form or you update information in the contact record, it really doesn't matter, as we know. So you can do an update here. It will reflect in the return, and it's easy to find a contact record. So I already mentioned that we can do a search by client name. So if you use client name as your search, you can search for legal name or operating as. And also it accepts partial searches as well. So if I type in AB here, it will give me some hits here. So you can see it's a AB at the beginning of the last name of Caroline. But not only that, it does find that hit in the middle of any of the names here. Okay, so you can see here for BC vegetable growers, it did find that as well as a hit. Okay, you can do a search by code, business number, SIN number, account number, phone number, or address. Okay, we also have this directory up at the top. So if you click on S here, for example, it will show my corporate clients. First word in their name starts with an S, and with individuals, first letter of the last name.
So there's no further filter available to drill down into detail. This is one layer of the filtering.
No, we have some more filters here. So if you click where it says search here,
Oh,
we're
okay.
able to
right.
filter here by partner, manager. You can see here also your firm filtering. So in your case, department or secondary partner, you could do a filter. Entity. Also, we have relationships that you can set up, contact groups or billing groups, and even the language of correspondence for that client. So you can use both the quick search and filters to refine your list down below, or you can just use one of those. So I could find everyone that I'm a partner and that's a corporation. Hit my search, and that gives me my list here. You can hit reset and search again. That just returns us back to our default view. And if you don't need to see your filters, you can collapse the menu here by clicking on that X. Our three-dot icon here is to select columns because everybody might want their own view on our contact records grid here. So you can select your columns and pick and choose what you see. So I could add my tax reference number, hit save,
But those
And-
are, the columns is basically very similar to the spreadsheet that we initially used to import the records. That's basically
Yes.
the next, yeah.
It has less columns available because obviously we have very limited real estate here.
Okay.
But you can add those columns here, and everybody can have their own view here.
Mhm.
So what I do here does not affect George on my team. Okay.
Right.
And it does stick. Okay, so next time I come in here, I will have those columns already set up. I don't have to redo it every single time.
Mhm.
So let's open up a record right here. So let's choose. I'm just going to see what ones I haven't used yet. Let's choose this client. And so once you click on that row for that client, it takes you into the details section. So here I'm allowed to see a lot of information about my client, including their contact info. If I do need to make a change to the record, you're just going to click on Edit Details. You can choose your entity, switch it. The code can be changed. So if on the import you made a mistake with the client code for one client, or you want to change it, you can come here and change that client code, and it will be reflected in any tax returns that you have in the system for your client as well.
So if,
Mhm.
sorry, if the initial import of the business number or SIN number were incorrect,
Yes.
it will sync to the T1 or T2, which result in a wrong business number
Mhm.
captured in the T2. It overrides the original information.
Well, it'll have to be the same. So initially, when you do import your returns for Arctic Breeze here, if I'm importing the return, it would need to be the same here. So that should be RC. Okay, so this number will need to be the same on the return as it is here in order for it to match.
Right, otherwise it will have two hits on the CCHI for contact the page.
Yeah, I'll have two Arctic Breeze ski lodges in the system. Yeah. So yeah, that's exactly why it's important to get that number in.
Mhm.
Okay, so we could set all of the partner, manager, and your firm filtering here for my client. And there's the 3 different addresses that we can add. Okay, so addressee is available, and then you have number, apartment, street, etc.
So the address is the
Yes.
one that links to the, sorry, is the address linked to the tax prep.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
contact information is just, oh, there's no address, right? It's just the phone number stuff and emails.
Yes.
And the emails is also extracted, because in the T2 ID page or T1 ID page, there's an email address field.
Yes.
We usually leave it blank.
Okay.
So what should we do at this point? Because we need that for the CRM purpose, but not necessarily need that information for filing, e-filing, informing CRA.
So this field email does sync to the ID form in that email field for the return. What you can do is in the prepare profile, we can set it so that it will not automatically register a client for e-notifications by default.
Okay.
And we can lock that to no as well so that your users cannot change that answer. So then it will not allow CRA to register them, because I know that was an issue at one point. when you're filing. If you gave an email address, it automatically registered them for e-notifications. It's not that way anymore. Also, we can, if you would like, also set the prepare profile so that email addresses can be locked, cannot be entered. So if they don't have an email address in the contact record, on the ID form, you will not be able to enter an email address. We can lock it down.
It's the master lock, not individual lock, right? And then
Yes.
we can always later on turn back on.
You
Possible.
can turn it back on. You just have to switch that answer in your prepare profile.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll see that in our admin sessions. We'll go through that in detail.
That's gonna be the next,
Yeah, that'll be your next.
next session, yeah.
Next
Okay,
session.
got it.
Okay. So here we have all the information. We do have these dynamic fields. Usually they're used mostly for jobs and billing. So at this point, you may not want to spend time on
Okay, that's
that
for,
part.
okay, that's for job and billings.
Yeah.
Okay, so any other field that we are? Okay.
Well, I'm just going to warn you about client type and client type subcategory. This is the NAICS codings. I wouldn't spend time on this as well because this client subcategory does not flow through to the T2 return anyways. So there's no point in entering it here. So don't worry about these two fields here.
Client type.
And you will not have the billing, so yeah, we won't go through that. Anytime you make a change here, you can hit save. Underneath the arrow, there are more options here to save and add another contact record. We're going to just save and exit.
Mhm.
Hey, relationships are more for jobs and billing, but in December, it is going to come into effect that you could do some filtering based on the contact group. So what we can do here is tie a set of companies together in a group. And so what we would do is we'd have our list of companies here. They're tied together. It just groups them together. So when I am looking at my lists here, and in the future, I could see, okay, who belongs to the Barkwell group? There is my list of those clients. Yeah. So it's something you could do, but is it necessary? Maybe not. It would be more for jobs and billing purposes for creating invoices for the group, for example. Okay. Do you think that might be something you might want to do? Because you can do it when you do import your file.
Yeah, I think so, right?
Yeah, and it's just as easy as here. Well, let's go to contact group. All you have to do here is, I don't know where that is. It seems to be missing. I'll just enter a field here. Insert. So all you'd have to do for contact group is if these two are related, I just say, let's say Langley group, and just copy that down. Okay, now both when I import will be in that group. So
Yeah, because at the corporate level, we have that assigned client code, but individually, we can also search as an individual.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because at the
Yes.
corporate level, we have that, but the individual level, we don't have that. Now we are adding individual owner contact information as a hit on the contact system database. we can use, okay, so that's an extra field.
Yes.
To
Yeah,
add.
it'll be contact group.
Contact group. Link, it's two link, personal and corporate.
Yeah, you can link any type of contact together in a group, and it could be useful now just for seeing those members within the group. Also in the future, it might be useful for jobs and billing because we'll be able to take the WIP of any job within the group and bill it out on one invoice.
Hmm.
Yeah. So it's something to consider doing ahead of time, just so that you're future-proofing yourself. And as I said, we do predict in our new release that we are going to have the ability within the tax prep module to do a filter by groups as well. Okay, so you can establish them that way. Also, what you can do here is, I'm just going to choose another one here, is your relationships. If they're not in a group here and you've already entered them, you could click here. You can add them to an existing group, or you can create a new group here as well.
So it's just linked to the existing group usually that one.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
link the exercise, yeah.
So if they're part, let's say, of Everett Gardens here, I can add that, and you can see here, it's now added them to that group. Okay, so that's something you could do here. Okay, we do have the dynamic fields here in more detail. Notes and reminders are used by jobs and billing, so I would recommend that we don't look at this section right now. Because for you, the notes on the actual return are going to be more useful for your users because you're able to add a note to the return instead. Yeah. Okay, because the notes on the contact record, you can't see them here, whereas if you add them to the return, they're right here for you. If you're on your contact records, you don't want to go back out to the main screen to do another search. You can use your box here to start typing out the contact you're looking for. And then you just select them and go, and that'll take you to that record.
Mm-hmm.
So just the easy way to navigate between different contacts. And the previous and next go alphabetically by client. So that could be useful if you're updating the records for a group of family members. You can archive clients as well. So archiving them will make them inactive and you will not be able to create a return for that client. Okay, but if you do archive, you can always restore if you did that by accident. And we can also merge our contacts. So I have to go to another contact here. Okay, so you merge from this one into another one. The only reason to use this would be if you had a duplicate record for the same client. Okay, and it's going to transfer all the information from this contact into this contact. Okay, so it'll update that record. Okay, and then you hit yes, and it will merge. Once you do a merge, you cannot undo it. So just be very careful when using merge contacts.
So in the corporate world, there,
Mhm.
sometimes they have amalgamation. What would you
Yes.
recommend in this kind of incidents?
Well, if they're going through this sort of transition period, I'd leave the records as is. I'm not a big fan of merging, just because you kind of lose a track record there.
Mhm.
I would recommend archiving once everything
so-
is complete.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm thinking, that we can create a new record for the amalgamated entity and archive the amalgamatee into as a archive, like a historical records. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which allows us to always can go back to, just in case we need to look, search for
Yeah.
information. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because especially with the tax prep module, if you update the record, if you do a merge, it will update it in the previous tax year's returns as well. And you may not want to do that. So I think that what you're saying is a very sound idea, because you don't want to change previous year's returns information, because you want to keep that track record of what
Right.
happened in the past.
Right.
Yeah.
But then, just because, that's gonna be, the amalgamated company is gonna be RC 0002, so it has a unique ID, so it's not gonna, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, overrides the previous one, yeah, okay.
Let's go. Contacts. Okay, so let's just look at some of the settings for contacts. Okay, so we'll go to settings and contacts. Okay, so the first one here is an auto assign numeric client codes for new contacts. Okay, so what this will do is it will automatically assign the next number for any new contacts that you create, either through the contact module or through creating a new return. If you want to ensure that they use your existing pattern for client code, uncheck this option, and they will need to manually enter the client code for that contact. Okay, display address for province as code, so ON for Ontario, or if you choose name, it'll be the full Ontario. And we looked at contact-based security access earlier, and I think I remember this is something you were not going to use, because the super user would still have access to make changes to security. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's leave it that way, yeah.
Okay, so you're just going to leave that unchecked. Okay, we have our entities here. So you're going to have all of our defaults for the trust and estate. You'll also have corporation, individual, other, partnership. I have a few extras here, and you are welcome to add any extras as well. You just add your entity, you give it a name, and just make sure to choose the right entity type. Okay, so this does influence the fields that are available on the record, as well as what kind of returns we can do. Okay, so company allows for T2s, individual T1, obviously. Nonprofit does not allow for T2s. Okay, so just be careful of that. Okay? And we see trust.
In the T1,
If they go T1 sundries, not T1 sundry.
that's gonna be individuals.
It's
gonna be individual.
That'll be a change in the whole like a search and replace.
Cool.
Let's go back to our settings for contacts. Okay, client types, again, you're not going to spend much time here. You can always add any NAICS codings here, or if you click on the main category, you can add subcategories. But as I said, this does not flow through to tax prep, so
Right.
I wouldn't bother.
Mhm. We don't wanna spend time on this, do that.
No, no. It's a lot of time and effort for very little gain in the system. Okay, we do have no categories. We're not going to go through that because you're not going to use notes at this point. But dynamic fields, we do have a number that are in the system automatically. Okay, you can add any of your own. Okay, and it could be blank yes, no, text field, text area, date field, user, define list. Okay, these are just informational fields and they're only visible on the contact record. You just give it a field label and a unique identifier. Basically can be anything as long as it's unique. And then you can categorize it. Okay, so whether it belongs under engagements, as a secondary contact, bookkeeping, etc. here. Okay, so this is just the category heading that'll be grouped under.
Secondary contact.
Yeah.
Controllers. Eventually you're gonna put it in.
With the blank yes, no, you can have it also trigger an email to go out. Okay, so when set to yes, no, or yes or no, and then you can have an email go out to the client, to the partner, manager, or a specific set of users. Okay. We can also edit the groups. Okay, so these are the categories. So you can add any categories of your own here as well. Okay, you just give it a name and it'll become a heading. Hey, any questions about anything we did today?
Yes, I have. We, in our CRM system, we do have a tracking of the filing status.
Okay.
For each client by each taxation year for at least 5 years.
Okay.
So we will know, we categorize it by, separate them by T2 and the financial statements and the type of engagement, if it's a review, audit, or NPR. Yeah, I think that that's the most relevant, that's a key area, so we, use that as our control of the client filing status.
Yes.
We understand.
Yeah, so is the existing CCH firm provide this type of report?
You could use dynamic fields for that. Yeah, so you could remove any of the ones you don't feel that you would use here, and you could add any of your own and any of your own groupings as well. What you can do initially, if you have a large bunch of information here, is you can import dynamic fields in bulk. So basically what this will look like in an Excel file, here actually I have a sample here, is you'll have the code and then across the top, each of the dynamic fields that you want to import info for. Okay? You just enter the information here, you save it as a separate CSV file, and then you can come back to iFirm and import that file. Okay, so once those dynamic fields are set up, you can, and those clients are set up, then you can do your import of dynamic fields.
In your practice, have you seen any other clients tracking the filing status using dynamic fields, or they just relying on the Taxprep database to do that?
I've seen a few that do track it separately, certainly. Some just use the Taxprep database. Some do already have jobs and billing as well, so they're able to track that via jobs and billing quite easily. So it just depends on how you're doing your workflow and what products you're using to track.
I think that's a discussion for our internal purpose, because maybe this is more of a transition at this point, so we can track it on goal line. And then jobs and billing, once we bring the jobs and billing in, then it will be fully captured that way, instead of doing the extra work. Make sense? Yeah, okay. We don't do it as the same system. We don't change the.
I'm not changing the process.
Yeah.
Don't get involved with.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? George? Mike?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
Sharon, is there any field limitation for the import? Because sometimes the cell programming in CCH iFirm could be, with a limited of number of digits. That's what Mike, our consultant, is. He brought it up. That
Yeah, there is a limit to some of the fields, especially when we look at contact. In row 3, I do have the character limits for
Okay.
the fields.
So that's
Yeah.
the indicator. Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you'll have this indicator to show him as well. Usually the only cell I do find is an issue sometimes is it's usually the email address. I find is about the one that usually I can't fit the full information in. Sometimes I've had extraordinarily long names that just don't fit in, or but most of the time it's quite smooth. You can see here we have 100 characters, 175 here. It's very rare a name is more than 175 characters.
Who's gonna be able to remember it?
But there are exceptions, of course. Yeah,
I
I've seen them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Queen of England or King of England had very long name too.
Yes, yeah, that's true. Yeah. Okay, so I'll get this over to you, and the video for today, it's not available directly through Teams. So what I'll do is I'm going to upload that to our iFirm portal and give you access so you can download that MP4 file a little later on.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thanks
Have a
very
great
much. Thank
weekend.
you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.